Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tracking a story that spans a whopping 180 years. It's a fascinating and, frankly, a pretty chilling look at how we lost one of our most fundamental rights, our personal privacy. And you know what the craziest part is? We barely even realized it was happening. Okay, let's dive right in. Picture a frog dropped into a pot of cool, comfortable water. The heat rises so slowly, so gently, that the frog just happily swims around, completely content. It never actually notices the creeping danger. By the time the water is actually boiling, well, it's too late to jump out. We're using that exact powerful metaphor today to track the chronological history of our vanishing privacy. Because degree by degree, through shifts in technology, law, and corporate policy, the temperature has absolutely been turned up on us.
So let's start at the beginning. Phase 1, the comfortable cool.
Way before the 1990s, the water feels absolutely fine. I mean, it's room temperature, and our metaphorical frog is perfectly comfortable, settling right in without a care in the world. But if you look closely at what was happening in the background, long before the internet was even a spark of an idea, the foundational machinery of surveillance was quietly being built. It just wasn't digital yet. It was strictly analog. It lived in massive filing cabinets, heavy ledger books, and endless paper trails. We just didn't really have a sinister word for it at the time. Let's walk through this timeline to see exactly how this started. Back in 1841, the Mercantile Agency began the very first systematic tracking of individual credit and personal character. This was literally the birth of the data broker in America, a whole business built entirely on collecting and selling your personal information. Jump to 1921, and credit associations had expanded to 230 cities, creating these mass archives of personal behavior on millions of ordinary citizens. Now, there were definitely some attempts to push back. In 1965, the Supreme Court case Griswold v. Connecticut established a constitutional right to privacy, which was a real legal beacon of hope. And in 1974, the Privacy Act tried to regulate federal data collection. But honestly, that was mostly just a step forward on paper. The frog doesn't even notice the pot is on the stove yet. Everything still feels perfectly normal. Which brings us to phase 2. The water begins to warm. The unseen burner underneath our pot? It just clicked on. Enter the 1990s internet boom. Our frog is splashing around in absolute delight because this new digital world is incredibly exciting. We were all rushing to log on to chat rooms, listening to those crazy dial-up screeching noises, blissfully unaware of the rising heat beneath the surface. It was a quiet revolution in how data about you was actually collected. And here is the exact technological spark that really lit the flame. In 1994, Netscape invented the browser cookie. Now, it sounds cute, right? But it's actually a tiny file that sits right on your computer, and its primary job is to report your online habits back to companies. Think of it like a digital name tag that you just couldn't take off. For the very first time, websites could actually remember you, and more importantly, they could follow you from page to page. It was a massive, foundational shift in digital surveillance. Now, the global reaction to this new tracking capability was, well, drastically split. On one side, in 1995, the European Union sounded the alarm. They issued their first data protection directive because European regulators actively sensed the danger as digital commerce scaled up. But on the flip side, over in the US, it was a complete Wild West. A landmark 1997 study actually found that out of the 100 most visited websites, only 17 even bothered to have a privacy policy, and get this, not a single one of them met basic standards. Moving on to phase 3, the heat rises. The water is noticeably warm now, and our frog is starting to shift uncomfortably. September 11th, 2001 really changed everything. Fear became the main justification for a dramatic expansion of government surveillance. Just 45 days after the attacks, the Patriot Act granted sweeping new powers to monitor communications and financial records, often entirely without warrants. And in that exact same year, the very first GPS-enabled mobile phones hit the market. By 2002, the Pentagon proposed a total information awareness program to connect everything from your travel logs to your medical records into one giant surveillance scheme. While public outcry did kill the official program, many of its pieces quietly survived in the shadows. Then, in 2008, the FISA Amendments Act created Section 702, expanding the net even further. We can basically call this the tragedy of convenience. On one hand, you had these massive, intimidating government programs justified by national security. But on the other hand, we eagerly participated. We gladly bought commercial tracking devices and carried them around in our pockets because, hey, we happily traded our location privacy for turn-by-turn directions to the nearest coffee shop. Privacy advocates were raising early alarms about being tracked by cell signals, but honestly, most of us just enjoyed the new technology.
So the really crucial point here is understanding the compounding impact of laws like Section 702. While it was explicitly designed to let the NSA collect the communications of foreign targets, it functioned as a massive dragnet. It swept in enormous amounts of ordinary American data as quote-unquote incidental collection. Because of this legal framework and our fancy new devices, by 2012, your phone, your browser, your credit card, and your government were all quietly building a secret file on you.
And that launches us into Phase 4, the boiling point. The water is literally scalding now. The frog finally feels the blistering heat of the pot, but its muscles are lethargic. It's just too weak to jump out. This modern era is defined by a series of explosive revelations that confirmed exactly what privacy advocates had been warning us about for decades. Mass surveillance is not a conspiracy theory. It is infrastructure. It is baked right into the systems we use every single day.
Just look at the relentless march of legal and technological events over the last decade or so. In 2013, Edward Snowden leaked classified documents revealing NSA programs were collecting the internet and phone records of millions of ordinary people in bulk. In 2018, we saw a rare bit of legal pushback with Carpenter v. United States, which required police to get warrants for long-term cell location data. Though, of course, agencies quickly found loopholes. In 2021, the Pegasus project dropped. And just recently, in 2024, the RISA Reauthorization, a major intelligence act, vastly expanded surveillance powers to include almost anyone with physical access to internet infrastructure. The net just keeps getting wider and wider.
I really want to highlight the Pegasus project from 2021 for a second because it proves this absolutely isn't just an American issue. Investigative journalists revealed that military-grade spyware, sold by an Israeli company, was used to infect the phones of journalists, activists, lawyers, and even heads of state across more than 45 countries. The terrifying reality here is that no one's device was safe. The infrastructure of surveillance we've built is completely global.
Which leads us to our current reality. The result, a fully surveilled reality.
The pot is actively boiling, and this is the inescapable water we are all swimming in right now. First, your location is continually sold. Your smartphone records where you are every few seconds, and that data is sold to brokers, who sell it to advertisers, and yes, even to law enforcement agencies who use it to completely bypass warrant requirements. Second, your social graph, the digital web of everyone you know, is totally mapped. Just the metadata, who you call and when, allows analysts to predict your future behavior, your political leanings, and even your financial vulnerability without ever needing to read the actual content of your messages. Finally, true privacy is nearly impossible. It's baked right into every app and device you rely on. Opting out essentially means opting out of the modern world entirely. And this brilliantly, if tragically, illustrates the heart of the metaphor. The frog never jumped because each degree felt too small to matter. Over 180 years, we offered our willing compliance for a tiny bit of convenience here, a cool new tech feature there, a little bit of perceived security. Every single degree of temperature increase just felt too insignificant to fight back against at the time. But the reality is completely undeniable. Now the water is boiling. Surveillance isn't just a tool aimed at suspects anymore, it is the fundamental infrastructure of our modern lives. So, I leave you with this final thought. Now that the water is boiling, do we notice in time to actually do something about it? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.